The baby was screaming again. It didn't wail, didn't sob. It screamed. Raw, sharp, breathless. The kind of sound that didn't belong in an auction yard, but no one told it to stop. The mother, or the maid, no one was sure, stood at the edge of the fence line, barefoot, dressed damp and clinging to her back, holding the child so close it looked like part of her. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The animals had gone quiet. Even the pigs. Even the wind. The auctioneer cleared his throat, loud on purpose, and scratched behind his ear. "Lot 42, he said. "Woman and child, together." A few heads turned. One man chuckled. Another spat. "Are they serious?" someone whispered. "Looking that way." "Is she legal?" "It doesn't matter. The sheriff signed off. She doesn't have any shoes." "That ain't the part you should be worried about." She didn't blink, didn't twitch, just rocked the baby slowly, like she'd been doing it since it was born, maybe even before. Her face wasn't scared. It was blank, just eyes, heavy, rimmed in red, locked on something in the distance like she was staring down the barrel of time. The auctioneer looked around the crowd. "You take both," he said. "Ain't no splitting 'em." One man called out, "Ain't got used to a baby." Another said, "That one cries too much." A younger voice added, "That ain't crying. That's a warning." Nobody laughed. 10, someone said. 15. 20? 25. The bids weren't real. They were habits. Just things said to keep the air from choking. But she didn't move. The baby coughed. 30. 35. 40. Still, no one moved. The rancher hadn't spoken. He stood at the far end of the lot, leaned against a post like he hadn't heard a thing. Dust in his hair, arms folded, boot pressing a dead weed into the dirt. Someone nudged their friend. "That him?" "Hell yeah, that's him." "I thought he was dead." Would have made more sense. The boy holding the auction sheet looked at the rancher, then back at the woman. "Are you ready to sell?" He asked her. She said nothing. The baby pulled at her collar. 45, another man called. 50. The rancher raised his hand. Silence cracked. His arm hung in the air for a second longer than it needed to. Everyone saw it. Everyone breathed differently when it dropped. 60, he said, just once. Just that word. The auctioneer swallowed. 60 from the back. "Do I hear 70? "No," the rancher said. The auctioneer blinked. "That wasn't a bid." The rancher said again. "That was noise." The man who said 70 stepped back. Nobody argued. Nobody topped him. "Sold," the auctioneer muttered. No one clapped. No one even moved. The rancher didn't walk toward her, didn't reach out, just turned and headed for his wagon like he'd bought a shovel or a bolt of cloth. She followed. She stepped out of the holding gate with the baby still to her chest, arms sore, feet bleeding at the heels, and not one man offered help. A hand grabbed her arm for half a second. "Y'all got no right," someone said. She looked at him, quiet, hollow. He let go. She kept walking. The wagon was already hitched, one mule chewing through a knot of weeds. The rancher didn't look back when she climbed in. Didn't tell her where to sit. He sat on the driver's bench. She crouched in the back bed, pressing herself into the corner like she didn't expect to stay long. The baby had gone quiet. "Boy or girl?" the rancher asked. She didn't answer. He waited. "Boy," she said. He nodded once. "Name?" She hesitated. "You pick it," she said. He turned his head slightly. "Ain't mine." "You paid for both of us." "That ain't the same." The baby stirred. She pulled him tighter. "Then don't name him. Just drive." The wagon creaked as he shifted the reins. "Town's gonna talk," he muttered. "Let 'em." "You scared?" "No." "You should be." She looked down at the baby. "He's the only one that scares me." The wagon rolled forward. The auction yard disappeared behind them, quiet again, like nothing had happened. But the bid broke something. Not just the rules. Not just the silence. Something older. Something that had been buried long before the crying started. The wagon rattled like something was wrong underneath. Like the wheels remembered what they used to carry. Lumber, a hog, once a coffin, and didn't want this weight. The road cut through dry fields and narrow gullies. The rancher didn't say a word, hands on the reins, jaw set. He looked ahead like he was late for something, like he wasn't sure bringing them back was a good idea. She didn't ask where they were going, didn't ask his name, Didn't even sit up straight, just curled her body around the baby in the back of the wagon bed, like a shield built from ribs and breath. Her knees ached. Her shoulder throbbed where the baby's head pressed into bone. She adjusted the blanket again. Dust had settled on it, coated the edges. The fabric had been pink once, maybe white. Now it was neither. She pulled the cloth over his ear. The baby didn't stir, hadn't cried since the auction, hadn't made a sound in over an hour. The rancher glanced back once, didn't say anything. She met his eyes, quick, like a mistake, then turned away and wiped the dust with her palm, like it mattered. The sky dimmed a little as clouds rolled over. No rain, just shade. "You feed him?" the rancher asked. She hesitated. "Last night." He didn't follow up, didn't offer food, didn't stop the wagon. She looked at the baby's face, pale, soft, mouth slightly open, a single line of dried spit on his cheek. She wiped it with the same part of her dress she'd cleaned his feet with earlier. They hit a rut. The wagon jerked. Her hand shot out and caught the edge. The rancher slowed the mule for a moment, then sped up again like nothing happened. She didn't thank him. He didn't expect it. The road turned left. A row of trees came into view, gnarled and leaning, like they'd been waiting too long. Beyond them was a gate, barely hanging. One hinge snapped. He pulled the wagon through. The yard was mostly dirt, no grass. A stump sat dead center, chopped low. Beside it, a pile of tools stacked in a wheelbarrow. The house looked tired. The tin roof caved a little in the middle, one shutter hanging. Front steps cracked, but it stood. She climbed out of the wagon without help, landed on her heels, winced, didn't show it, held the baby close, and walked toward the door. The rancher tied off the mule, didn't look at her, didn't open the door. She reached for the handle. It creaked. The house smelled like dust and firewood. No food, no warmth, no voices. She walked straight to the corner and sat on the floor, cradling the baby, like the wagon ride hadn't ended yet. He came in, removed his hat, set it on a nail by the door. "You can have the room upstairs," he said. She didn't move. He looked at her, then up the stairs, then back again. "You hear me?" "I heard." He waited. She didn't rise. The baby finally shifted in her arms. "Got a name yet?" he asked. "No." "I think you should give him one." "You think you get to tell me what I should do?" "No." They both fell silent. A clock ticked somewhere, slow and mechanical. "I'll boil water," he said. She nodded once. He left the room. The baby breathed against her collarbone. Tiny exhales, barely there. She laid him on the wooden floor beside her, folding the blanket into a cushion. He didn't wake, didn't twitch, just kept breathing. She ran a finger down his arm. "You ain't mine," she whispered, "but I'm all you got." The floor creaked above. Pipes groaned. She looked up, unsure if someone else lived here. He returned with a pot, set it near the stove. "You cook?" "I clean. I ain't got much worth cleaning." "Then I'll make do." They didn't speak again for a while. He walked to a small cabinet, pulled out a tin of beans, and set it on the table. "No meat," he said. "I didn't ask." He looked at her again. Something in his face shifted. No regret, no pity, just tired recognition. "You can sleep in the room," he said. "You and the baby. You lock the door at night." "I do." She nodded. "Then I'll sleep by it." He didn't argue, didn't push. He just nodded once, slow, then lit a lamp and walked upstairs. She sat on the floor till the flame disappeared, then laid down beside the baby, using her arm as a pillow. The house breathed around them. Soft creaks, shifting wood, night pressing through cracks. The dust still clung to the baby's blanket. She didn't brush it off this time, just let it stay, like it belonged there, like everything did. Morning came slowly, the kind that crept in instead of knocking. She hadn't slept. The baby had curled under her chin, both of them still on the floor. The boards beneath her ached against her ribs. Her legs were stiff. Her right hand had gone numb. Upstairs, the man moved like someone trying not to be heard. Every creak was careful. Every step weighed. She sat up and adjusted the blanket over the baby, then stood slowly, knees cracking, arms limp. She opened the front door without a word, walked outside barefoot, and pumped water into the tin bucket sitting by the porch. It stuttered twice, then filled fast. The rancher was already in the barn, pitchfork in hand, feeding something out of sight. He didn't look up. She carried the water back inside, set the bucket just past the door, and stared at it for a second like it might tell her what to do next. The baby started fussing, low and muffled. She scooped him up, bounced him against her hip, then spotted the crate under the stairs, splintered but empty. It had once held peaches. She could still smell the syrup. She lined the crate with the blanket and set the baby in it. He stretched but didn't cry. She crouched there for a while, just watching him, her hand on his tiny chest, counting each breath. The house smelled of wood rot and forgotten dinners. No crib, no linens, one knife on the table, no second chair. She stood, turned to the corner near the stove, and reached for the rag that hung on a nail. She held it in her hand like it had weight. He came in from the barn, boots heavy with dirt. "You hungry?" he asked. "No." "You sure?" I said no. He looked at her, then at the rag in her hand. "You cleanin'?" "I mop when I'm nervous." He didn't smile, didn't joke. "The floor doesn't need it," he said. "I do." She dipped the rag in the bucket and dropped to her knees. Started in the corner. I worked out. The wood groaned beneath her strokes. Her back curved like someone used to bending. She scrubbed hard, fast, back and forth, short, controlled movements. He leaned against the wall. I watched her scrub the same spot 3 times. "You mad?" he asked. "No." "You scared?" "Should I be?" "I don't know." She stopped scrubbing. I looked up at him. "Have you ever hit a woman?" "No." "Have you ever locked one in this house?" "No." "Then I ain't scared." He nodded. "All right." She went back to scrubbing. He sat in the chair, picked at something on the table, and didn't speak. The baby cooed from the crate. She turned her head. "He needs milk." "I ain't got any." "Figures. I can ride to town. Later." She paused. "What do you owe him?" He didn't answer. "I've seen that brand before," she said. "On a calf once, not on skin." He looked at the baby, then away. "I didn't put it there," he said. "But you recognized it." He nodded. She wrung the rag out, water slapping against the bucket rim. "You were part of it," she said. I walked away. She didn't respond, just moved to the next patch of floor. The house felt colder now, like someone had opened a window no one could see. She dipped the rag again. "I didn't buy you," he said. "You paid money." "For both." "That makes it worse." He stood up. I walked over to the door. "Hold it open." She looked up, squinting. "I ain't asking you to stay," he said. I didn't ask to leave. He watched her, then closed the door. The baby cried. She stood, wiped her hands on her dress, picked him up, and bounced him slowly. "You got a name yet?" the rancher asked. "No." "You gonna give him yours?" "I don't get one either." He frowned. "Everybody's got a name." "Not if no one says it." She turned her back to him. He stood there for a while, just watching, then stepped into the kitchen corner and pulled down a tin. "Beans again," he said. "I told you I'm not hungry." "Baby is. I'll chew and spit if I have to." "Better if you don't." They stood in opposite corners like soldiers from different wars. The floor is still wet between them. She picked up the rag again. "Keep scrubbing." He watched her for a while longer, then turned and walked upstairs. She didn't ask where he was going. I didn't care. She scrubbed the same spot again, not because it needed it, because her hands didn't know how to stop, because clean means something. Even here, especially here. The baby fell asleep in her arms. His breath is steady. The crate still smelled like peaches. The bucket by the door waited for her to start over. The beans were dry, overcooked. The salt sat unopened on the table. The baby slept in the fruit crate by the stove, one arm splayed out, blanket kicked down to his ankles. She watched him longer than she should have, then took the first bite. The rancher sat across from her, elbows on the table, chewing slowly. Neither spoke. Forks clinked, chairs creaked. The lamp above them flickered once. He said, "I need more pepper." She said, "You ain't got any." He nodded. She didn't look at him, didn't touch her water, kept her hand flat on the table beside the plate like she might need it to push herself up and leave. He watched her eat. She knew he was watching. Every chew, every swallow, measured. She said, "Have you ever brought anyone else here?" "No." "You lived here long?" "All my life." She scraped her fork against the tin plate. "Doesn't look like it." "I don't change much." I noticed. She pushed the beans around. The baby stirred. He said, "You scared again?" I was never scared. He leaned back. "You were. At the auction." She didn't argue, just nodded once. "You looked at me like you knew me." I didn't. She paused. "You sure?" He said nothing. She pushed her plate aside. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. I looked at the baby, then back at him. Clara, he said it too fast. Clara. She froze, stopped breathing for a second, and set her jaw. You already knew. No. You said it like you did. It's a common name. Not here. He looked at the lamp. I heard someone say it. Who? He paused. I don't remember. She stood up, not fast, just deliberate. Pulled the baby out of the crate. Hold him tight. He stayed seated. You think I'm lying? I think you didn't flinch when you said my name. I don't flinch easily. Clara took a breath. Tell me what you know. I don't know anything. Then why are we here? He looked at her, slow. You tell me. She stared back, searching his face for cracks. The scar above his eyebrow, the sun lines near his temples, the slight twitch in his left cheek when he was thinking too hard. The baby giggled. Clara looked down. He was pulling her collar, eyes wide open, looking between her and the man. She loosened her grip. Sit back down. Didn't look up. You said you didn't bring anyone else here, she said. I didn't. You said you didn't know me. I don't. Then why do I feel like I'm supposed to be here? He didn't answer. The baby laughed again, louder. Clara cracked a small smile. Must be losing it, she muttered. You're not, he said. How would you know? He shrugged. Because I've been around crazy, and you ain't that. Maybe not yet. She laid the baby back down in the crate. He curled to the side, thumb halfway to his mouth. You got someone out there looking for you? The rancher asked. No. You sure? They gave me away. That's not the same. He nodded. I was 13, she said. The first family wanted a cook. The second one wanted a body. He didn't blink. She went on. The third just wanted me to be quiet. You stayed? No choice. He watched her. She stared at the baby. You want me to take you back? I want you to tell me the truth. I am. You said that too fast. He looked down at his plate, pushed the last of the beans with his fork. You think I'm dangerous? He asked. I don't think yet. The wind outside picked up. A shutter tapped once, then twice. Do you think the baby remembers anything? He asked. No. Lucky, Clara whispered. Maybe. The baby shifted again. They both looked over. He was asleep. I won't hurt you, the rancher said. I don't believe that yet either. He nodded. Fair. She stood, picked up both plates. I walked them to the basin. No running water, just the bucket by the door. She dunked the plates, wiped them clean with the same cloth from the morning. He stayed at the table, hands folded now. Why'd you buy us? She asked. Felt like I had to. That's not a reason. No, it ain't. She finished drying the plates. Hang the cloth back on the nail. Turned toward him, eyes sharp. You knew my name. Clara, he said again. Slower this time, softer. She stared at him for a long moment, then walked to the crate, laid down beside it on the floor. The baby shifted in his sleep. She closed her eyes. The man didn't go upstairs. He just sat there at the table waiting for morning, and outside, the shutter kept tapping like it knew something neither of them did. The baby had just started dozing when the boots hit gravel, heavy, wide-heeled, slow on purpose. Clara didn't move, just shifted her body so she sat between the crate and the door. She could see through the crack in the wood, the brim of a hat, dust-covered pants, the smooth glint of a badge before it ducked behind the light. Then a voice. Morning. Not loud, not friendly, just enough to be heard. Clara didn't answer. The rancher stepped around the corner, wiping his hands on a rag. Didn't see you ride up. Didn't. The man in the hat didn't smile, didn't tip the brim, just stood there, hands resting against his belt. His eyes were sharp but lazy, like he wanted folks to think he was slow when he wasn't. Come by to see who's living where these days, the sheriff said. Same as always. The sheriff tilted his head toward the house. That right. The rancher didn't blink. Got a helper, is that a problem? No one said it was. Then why are you here? Just checking. Check's done. The sheriff took one step closer. Not far. Just enough. Some folks saw you at the auction, he said. Said you picked up a little more than feed grain. She's got a name. Don't doubt it. Inside, Clara sat still, one hand on the baby's foot, holding it like it might float off if she let go. The baby kicked once. She kept her breathing steady. You pay cash? The sheriff asked. Did. That's good. Keep it clean. I always do. Another pause. Then, She from the parish? I didn't ask. You should start. She's working. Ain't that legal? Sometimes. Another long pause. The sheriff took off his hat, wiped his forehead with the sleeve, then looked straight at the house. His eyes didn't shift, didn't blink. Is she inside? She's restin'. She has a family? Not here. Is she yours? No. You sure treat her like she is. I treat folks how they treat me. The sheriff finally smiled, thin and mean. Is that a new policy? The rancher didn't move. Are you here for something real? Just checkin', the sheriff repeated. His eyes still hadn't moved from the door. Do you mind if I say hello? I do. Friendly wave, that's all. Not today. The sheriff nodded, real slow. No law against being polite. There's no law saying she has to see you either. Clara didn't breathe. She sat with her back tight against the wall, one knee drawn up, baby pressed to her thigh. The sheriff took one step back, then two. You know how things go round here, he said. People start asking questions. I gotta knock on doors, even ones with new locks. She ain't done nothing. I ain't saying she has. She's just working, same as me, same as you. The sheriff laughed once. That's a good line. Then he pointed toward the horizon, toward the town beyond the dust and silence. You going in soon? Don't know. If you do, the sheriff said, bring her papers. Or something that passes. She doesn't need to pass. Everybody needs to pass, one way or another. He turned then, real slow. Hat's back on. But just before mounting up, he said over his shoulder, you got a leaky roof. I'd fix it before the rain gets in. No rain coming, the rancher said. The sheriff smiled again, even thinner. Don't mean it ain't coming. He rode off without a wave. Clara waited till the hoofbeats faded. The rancher came inside. She didn't stand. He didn't sit. You hear all that? He asked. Most. He's sniffing. He already knows. Maybe. She looked down at the baby. He never stopped looking at this door, she said. I know. What's he want? Control. She looked up. That sheriff got a wife? Used to. Where is she? Buried. What's he doing? Folks say yes, but not out loud. Clara shifted the baby to her other arm. You said I'm safe here, she said. I meant it. You still mean it? I do. She stood, walked past him to the basin, poured what was left of the bucket into a tin pot. Is he coming back? She asked. Almost certainly. What's he waiting for? For me to slip, for you to panic. She struck a match, lit the stove. I ain't scared of men who smile like that, she said. Good. But I am tired of being watched. He leaned against the doorway. You want to leave? No. Then you clean. You care for that baby. And you don't answer any knocks unless it's me. What if he walks in? He won't. And if he does? The rancher stared at her. I've got a way of ending things, he said. Clara looked down at the flame, then at the baby. I believe you, she said. The sheriff didn't knock because he didn't have to, but the next time he did, the door might not be unlocked, and she wouldn't be sitting on the floor. Clara had cleaned every room twice. Floorboards, windowsills, cabinet hinges. She swept behind the stove, under the cot, even beneath the crate the baby had claimed for sleep. But the fireplace hadn't been touched since they arrived. Cold, soot-caked, half-choked with ash. Something about it made her pause. The baby was napping with his foot hooked over the edge of the crate, tiny fingers curled into a fist. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind that made her skin crawl. She knelt in front of the hearth, brushed the ashes with her fingers. At first, just character, then paper, fragile but not fully gone. A corner of something. 2, 3. Edges curled, but ink still clinging. She pulled them free, held them close to the light. It was handwriting, not his. A woman's. Slanted and careful, still neat in places. She read the first line. You said you'd fix the roof before winter. She stopped breathing. Second scrap. He doesn't cry anymore. I think that's worse. Her throat tightened. She flipped the third piece. If you find this, you already know. She stood slowly, heart pounding too loud for silence. She folded the scraps into her palm and slid them under her apron, tucked near her ribs. Behind her, the floor creaked. She turned fast. The rancher was in the doorway. What are you doing? She didn't blink. Cleaning. He looked at the hearth. His eyes narrowed. She kept her hands at her sides. "You don't use the fireplace?" she asked. "Not in summer. It still smells like something fresh." He didn't answer. The baby coughed from the crate. Once, then again. Clara stepped past him, picked the baby up, rocked him gently. "Have you ever lived with a woman?" she asked. He scratched his chin. "No." "You sure?" He didn't flinch. "I said no." She looked down at the baby. "Then why do you have a stack of ash with someone else's words in it?" He went still. She waited. "I burned scraps," he said. "Junk mail, old notes, trash. These weren't junk." He took one step toward her. "You dig through my fireplace? I clean where I live. You don't live here. You brought me here. That ain't the same." Clara bounced the baby slowly. "He's coughing," she said. "I'll ride to town for syrup." "You didn't answer the question." "What question?" "Whose letters were they?" He stared at her. "Too long." Then said, "I don't know." She didn't believe him, didn't say so. Just nodded and laid the baby back in the crate. She turned toward the hearth again. "Whatever burned in there," she said, "didn't burn all the way." "Doesn't matter." "It does to me." He stepped back into the hall, arms crossed. "Why are you still here?" he asked. "I don't have anywhere else." "That's not what I meant." "Then ask more clearly. You find something you don't like, you stay anyway." "I've lived with worse men and colder secrets." He nodded. "So you're used to it." That wasn't a compliment. He looked toward the door. "You want me to leave?" she asked. "No." "Then don't tell me where not to clean." The baby whimpered. She picked him up again, sat by the crate with him in her lap, rocking slowly. "Have you ever had someone write you letters?" she asked. "Once." "Did you burn those too?" "I never answered them." She didn't push. "Didn't ask who?" "I didn't need to." The chimney still smelled like memory. He stepped back into the room. "Let me see the paper," he said. "No." He didn't argue. "You don't trust me," he said. "Not yet." "Will you?" "That depends on the next time you lie." He took a slow breath. "Fine," he said. "Then I'll lie better." Clara didn't smile, didn't laugh. She just said, "You already did." The baby coughed again. She held him tighter. "I'll ride out now," the rancher said. "For syrup?" "And answers." She nodded. "Bring back both." He walked out the door without another word. Clara stood, walked to the sink, pulled the scraps from her apron, and read them again. "If you find this, you already know." She folded the pieces into a cloth napkin and tucked it under a loose floorboard near the stove. Whatever burned in that chimney, someone had meant to forget, but not well enough. And not before she got here. The sun was high when she started the laundry, water from the pump, soap chipped from a bar that looked older than the porch. She worked by the tree stump, the baby asleep nearby in a feed sack lined with quilts. One shirt at a time, dunked, scrubbed, wrung out. When she reached the rancher's shirt, she paused. The cuff was stiff, dried, dark. She ran her thumb over it, then turned the fabric inside out. The stain was deep, almost black. Blood. Not fresh, not from a nosebleed or finger nick. She didn't flinch, just dipped it again, scrubbed harder. The water pinked, then cleared. She looked over her shoulder. The rancher was chopping wood, sleeves rolled. His hands moved like the axe was an extension of him, like he wasn't thinking at all. She wrung the shirt 3 times and hung it on the line. He didn't look at her. She didn't ask. When the clothes were all swaying in the wind, she brought the baby inside. His cheeks were warm. He needed syrup, and he hadn't had it yet. The rancher came in around dusk. Sweat streaked across his collarbone, face unreadable. She was cooking beans again. He sat. Without washing, she poured water. He drank it fast. "You kill someone?" she asked. He didn't look up. "You asking 'cause you saw blood?" "I'm asking because I washed it." He nodded. "Might have been mine." "Might have." He didn't answer. She sat across from him. The baby coughed again. "Still no syrup." "There's a shortage in town." She stared at him. "You didn't go." "No." "Why?" "The sheriff was there." She didn't argue, just fed the baby cooled beans mashed with water. He watched them both, said nothing. When she cleared the table, she didn't offer to scrub the floor, didn't hum, didn't make small talk. That night, she climbed the stairs, the baby in her arms. First time, first step away from the crate. The room upstairs had one cot, one trunk, no curtains. She laid the baby down and stood at the door for a long time. Then she turned the lock. Software slow. She didn't want it to click loud. Downstairs, the floor creaked once, then again, then silence. She sat beside the cot with her back to the wall, eyes on the doorknob. The wind picked up around midnight. The trees groaned. The house breathed. Then came the knock. Just one, not frantic, not soft, just heavy. She froze. The baby stirred, didn't wake. She didn't move, didn't answer. Waited. Another knock didn't come. Only quiet, the kind that makes your hands sweat without moving. She stayed there until dawn. When the baby finally cried, she exhaled like she hadn't all night. The knock didn't come again, but she checked the lock before she went downstairs. The rancher was in the yard, shirtless, hauling logs. He didn't look at her when she stepped outside. "Someone came last night," she said. He nodded once. "You hear it?" "Yes." "You expectin' someone?" "No." She folded her arms. "You gonna tell me what you're mixed up in?" "No." "Then I'll ask again next time." He wiped his face with his arm. "You're gonna lock that door again tonight?" "Yes." "Good." She turned to go back inside. He said, "You scared again?" "No." "You sure?" She looked at him. "Have you ever seen a man knocked quiet with just one fist?" she asked. "Yes." "That was my uncle." He raised an eyebrow. "She didn't lock the door after that," she said. The rancher looked away. "I'm not her," Clara added. "I know." She went inside, lifted the baby, kissed his forehead. She could still smell iron on her palms. It wouldn't wash out easily, and she didn't think it should. The baby had started walking crooked, left foot strong, right one still dragging behind, but it didn't stop him. He wandered further now, out past the shed, toward the fields. Clara followed barefoot, same as always, holding a rag in one hand just in case he fell face first into something sharp. She watched him move with that slow, bouncing rhythm, arms raised like he was balancing on air. He was quiet today, too quiet. His head turned toward the tree line like something was calling, and she didn't like how steady he was walking. "Slow down," she said. He didn't. She dropped the rag, picked up her skirt, and followed him across the clearing behind the barn, the part the rancher said hadn't been used in years. She found him standing at a fence. The post was split clean through, not rotted, broken, like something had hit it hard. She stepped past it, carrying the boy now. The air changed. The dirt smelled different, thicker, like something beneath it was still smoldering. She saw it before she felt it. A rectangle of blackened stone, half buried under creeping grass, the outline of something once built. The baby squirmed. She set him down. He toddled forward and crouched, fingers digging into the ash. Clara moved closer. Her breath caught, toys not scattered, buried, tiny shoes melted into the dirt, a rusted cup, a jawless rocking horse, paint blistered off. The baby pulled something out. "Hold it up." $1, one arm gone, face charred. He smiled. Clara's knees gave out. She sank beside him. "This isn't your first home," she whispered. He turned, crawled into her lap, clutching the doll. She didn't take it away, didn't tell him to let go, didn't speak again. She sat there for minutes, maybe longer, the sound of wind, birds, her own breathing. Then footsteps, slow, crunching. She didn't turn around. The rancher stopped behind her. She said, "You knew this was here?" "Yes." "You didn't say anything?" "No." She looked up at him. "What happened here?" His eyes dropped to the doll. "Fire," he said. "Accidental." He didn't answer. The baby played with the doll's melted hair. She stood, holding him close. "This was a house," she said. "Yes." "Yours?" "No." She waited. He looked at the trees. "Family," he said. "Cousin." Her kids. Clara felt her arms tighten. "How many kids?" "3." "Did they get out?" "No." She shook her head. "You buried them here?" "No one buried anything." She stared. "You just left it." "No one came," he said. "No one asked. The sheriff called it a chimney spark, told folks to move on." Clara stepped closer. "You knew this baby had been here." "I suspected." "And you said nothing." "I didn't want to be right." She looked down at the boy. He was gnawing on the doll's fabric, eyes wide. "You think he remembers?" "I don't know." "Does he belong to them?" I think so. Which one? He shook his head. Why was he spared? She asked. I don't have that answer. She stepped past him, back toward the house. The grass crunched differently on this side. Each footfall felt like stepping on bones. When she reached the broken fence, she turned. You tried to hide this. I left it alone. Same thing. He walked up beside her. You want to go? He asked. No. You want to ask me more? Not now. They walked back to the house. The boy fell asleep in her arms before they reached the steps. She laid him down in the crate and sat beside him, brushing ash from his fingernails. The rancher sat across the room. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything they didn't say. She looked at the boy, then at the man. You should have told me, she said. I was waiting for the right time. There isn't one. No. That night, she didn't lock the door, but she sat in front of it with a kitchen knife in her lap, not because she was scared, but because the wind was blowing from the back field, and it carried the scent of burned wood, and maybe something else, something no one had buried, not yet. The water was warm, not hot, just enough to rinse the dust and ash off his skin. Clara sat on a stool beside the basin, sleeves rolled to her elbows, skirt bunched at her knees. The baby giggled as she poured water over his head, eyes closed, arms waving. It was the first time he laughed that loud in days. She smiled, poured again. He kicked, slapped the water, and tried to stand. She caught him, held his belly in her hand, and felt how light he was. You've been somewhere, she whispered. Haven't you? She turned him gently, brushing dirt from his back, humming low, something her mother used to sing before the world broke open. Then she saw it. A mark, lower left, just above the waist. He squirmed when she touched it, not from pain, but memory. She froze. Her breath vanished. The shape was unmistakable, a looped circle with a slashed line through the center. Not a scar from an accident, not a birthmark, a brand. Her hand shot to her mouth. She gasped, too loud. The baby jerked. She stumbled backward, water sloshing. She wrapped him in the towel, arms shaking. He cried now, loud, piercing. She turned toward the door, ran. He was already there, stormed in from the yard, boots wet, eyes scanning fast. What happened? She couldn't speak, held the baby out like proof. Look, she whispered. He stepped forward, took one look, went pale. You knew. He didn't answer. You knew, she said again. Yes. For how long? Since the fire. Clara backed away. He didn't follow. She held the baby tighter. Whose mark is it? Mine. The air dropped out of the room. She stared, unmoving. He's yours. No. Then why? My family used that mark years back. What kind of people brand children? He didn't speak. She stepped forward. Say it. He looked at her finally. Owners. She stopped breathing again. Explain, she said. He rubbed his jaw, sat slowly on the stool across from her. My father ran cattle and other things. You've heard the stories. I heard rumors. Some of them were true. She lowered the baby, still wrapped in the towel, and held him to her chest. He wasn't livestock, she said. He was born into something bad. You helped it? I didn't stop it. That's the same. He nodded. I know. Was his mother one of yours? He looked down. Clara's voice dropped. Answer me. Number she was traded. Clara closed her eyes. Like a horse. He didn't argue. Didn't defend. Where is she now? Dead. How? Fire. Clara swayed on her feet. The baby had gone quiet again. She rocked him slowly. I found letters, she said. I know. She loved him. I think she died trying to save him. She opened her eyes. You left him there. I came back. Too late. Yes. He stood. You want to leave? He asked. No. You should. No, she repeated. I don't deserve him. No, you don't. I don't deserve you either. You don't. Silence stretched. She walked past him, laid the baby on the cot, covered him, ran her fingers along the edge of the towel, down his leg, to the branded flesh. She didn't cry, didn't tremble. She just looked. I'll never forgive what you were part of, she said. He nodded. I know. But he's not leaving this house again without a name. He turned. She was looking at him, eyes hard. You said I could choose, she added. You can. I want to name him after someone who never hurt anybody. Then it won't be anyone we knew." "I know." He stepped forward, stopped at the cot. I looked down at the baby. "He didn't cry when he was born," he said quietly. "That's what they told me." "He's crying now," Clara replied. "Good." She looked at him. "Have you ever branded anyone yourself?" He shook his head. "Swear it." "I swear." "Swear on your mother's grave." "I don't know where she's buried." "Then swear on his name." He looked at the boy, put a hand over his heart. "I swear." Clara nodded. She picked up the cloth she'd been using earlier and started wiping the water from the floor. The towel stayed on the baby. The mark didn't fade, but she covered it anyway. It wasn't gone, but now it was hers to guard. The smell hit her before she saw it. Sharp, coppery, wrong. Clara had gone to the barn for eggs, basket hooked over her arm, baby strapped to her hip. The mule shifted near the gate but didn't bray. The hen stayed quiet. Even the wind held its breath. She stepped over the threshold, eyes adjusting to the dim. The basket dropped before she even knew her fingers had let go. Blood, not a spill. A message, dark and thick, pooling in the feed trough. Flies are already gathering. No carcass, no animal nearby. Just blood, fresh enough to steam in the morning cold. She didn't scream. She turned, ran. The baby whimpered against her chest, gripping the cloth tighter. She burst through the front door, heart slamming. He looked up from the table, saw her face, and stood fast. "Barn," she choked. He didn't ask, grabbed the rifle. I walked out. She didn't follow, just locked the door behind him, pulled the curtain aside, watched him vanish into the sun. 5 minutes passed. 10. When he returned, he said nothing, just washed his hands. Clara stood by the stove, holding the baby, rocking him slowly. "You see who did it?" she asked. "No." "Was it animal blood?" "No." She paused. "You sure?" He nodded. "Too red." "Then whose?" "I don't know." She set the baby down in the crate, eyes never leaving him. "What's it mean?" "It means he's getting nervous." "The sheriff." He nodded again. "He's telling me I don't own what I bought," he said. "You don't," she replied. "I know." The baby coughed. She walked over, picked him up again. "You think he's coming?" "Yes." "When?" "Tonight." They spent the day sharpening silence. No one spoke. No one scrubbed. She folded the knife cloth 3 times and laid it on the table. Unwrapped the largest blade from the kitchen, wiped it clean, placed it beneath the basin where she could reach fast. The rancher sat in the chair by the window, rifle across his lap. The sun crawled down the walls. By dusk, the house smelled like metal. Clara fed the baby, rocked him slowly. At full dark, they heard the hoofbeats. Slow. Confidence. The rancher stood. Clara didn't move. The knock didn't come this time. The door swung open without warning. She was already standing, baby in one arm, knife in the other. The rancher stepped behind her. The sheriff filled the doorway, hat low, boots dusted red. His eyes went to the blade first, then the baby, then her face. "Are you expecting me?" he said. "Been waiting all day." "You always greet guests like that?" "You ain't a guest." The rancher said, "Close the door, Sheriff." He didn't. "You got something to say?" Clara asked. "I came to offer a chance," the sheriff replied. "Is that what you call blood now?" He smirked. "Takes guts to swing a knife at a man with a badge." She didn't lower it. "Are you threatening me?" she asked. He stepped 1 boot forward. The rancher clicked the rifle. The sheriff paused. "No threats," he said, "just conversations." "Then speak fast," the rancher said. "You bought something you weren't meant to keep." "I paid." "Not enough." Clara's grip tightened. The baby stirred. "She's not property," the rancher said. "She never was," the sheriff replied. "Then why are you here?" "Because she took what someone else still claims." Clara stepped forward. "He's not theirs anymore." The sheriff tilted his head. "You think you changed that?" "I know I did." He sighed. "This town doesn't care about names, or blood, or truth," he said. "It cares about ownership." "Then tell them to knock louder next time." The sheriff looked at her. Long. Cold. "You lock that door again," he said. "Make sure it holds." She raised the knife. "You knock again," she whispered. "Make sure you can walk after." He looked at the rancher. Then I stepped back. "I'll be seeing you both," he said. The rancher nodded. Not in this house. The sheriff turned, left the door wide open. Clara stepped forward and slammed it shut, bolted it. The baby started to cry. She rocked him, knife still in her hand. The rancher stepped to her side, said nothing. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, her blade stayed close, and the trough in the barn kept bleeding. It started in the walls. Quiet, measured. A slow crackling behind the staircase just before midnight. Clara heard it first, the pop of wood splitting where it shouldn't. Then the baby cried. She sat up, smelled smoke. By the time she reached the hall, the wall near the stairs was glowing, not flickering, breathing, orange leaking from the seams, curling upward fast. "Fire!" she shouted. "Get up!" The rancher was already coming down barefoot, rifle in one hand, shirt thrown over his shoulder. Clara grabbed the baby, blanket and all. She didn't stop to pack, didn't check the floorboards, just held him to her chest and ran toward the back door. She turned the handle. It didn't move. "Locked," she hissed. He yanked at the front. Nothing. "It's jammed." Someone nailed it. The smoke thickened. The room behind them roared once, a whoosh that sent heat crawling up the floorboards. "Window," he said. Clara ran, baby in one arm, the other shielding his face. The window was small, narrow. "You first," he said. "Number you take him." "I'm too big." She didn't argue, climbed onto the table, pried the frame up, kicked out the screen. The air outside was cold and sharp. She looked down, 5 feet, soft dirt. She turned. "Hand me the baby." He hesitated. "Now," she barked. He passed the child. She wrapped the baby in the blanket, kissed his forehead, and dropped him gently into the dark. He landed softly. I cried once. She dropped next, landed hard, leg buckled. She rolled, snatched the baby, held him tight. "Come!" she yelled. The rancher tried to follow. The window frame groaned, too tight. He backed up. Clara screamed. He ran to the back again, slammed his shoulder into the door. Once, twice. It cracked. Smoke poured in. "Don't be stupid," she yelled. He didn't answer. The third slam broke it. He stumbled through, coughing, eyes red. Clara ran to him. The baby whimpered in her arms. The rancher dropped to his knees, heaving. Alive. They didn't go far. Just to the stump, just outside the reach of the heat. They sat in the dirt, smoke curling around them like it had questions. The house roared behind them. The roof collapsed in the back first, then the front. Sparks shot high. No one came, no voices, no horses, just them. Clara wrapped the blanket tighter around the baby. He wasn't crying now, just blinking, face smeared with soot. "You think he did it?" she asked. The rancher nodded. "Why now?" "Because he knew we weren't leaving." Clara stared at the flames. "I left once," she said. "Didn't take anything. Didn't ask. Still got chased." The rancher coughed again, wiped his mouth. "He wanted the boy back?" "No," he said. He wanted the silence back. The fire snapped louder. The wind carried it toward the empty field. Clara looked down at the child in her arms. "No papers," she said. "No names." The rancher added. "No proof. Except him." They watched the house die together. Wood falling in, smoke billowing out. The porch caved, the stairs turned black. The roof sagged, then dropped like a final breath. When it ended, there was no cheer, just smoldering, just silence. They stayed until morning. Ash floated through the sky like slow snow. The sun rose behind the barn, lighting the wreckage in gold and gray. Clara stood first. Her dress was torn, hair slicked to her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. The rancher stayed seated, the baby in his arms now. Clara watched him. He looked different holding the child, smaller, lighter, like the weight had shifted. She sat beside him again, leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. The baby reached up and grabbed the edge of his shirt. "I think this is what family is," Clara said. "No name, no paper, no chains." They sat that way for a while. The fire didn't come back. The smoke thinned. Behind them, everything they were burned down. But none of them were erased. Not the truth, not the baby, not what they'd become. The fire had cooled, but hadn't died. Smoke still coiled from blackened beams like breath from a sick lung. The sun hadn't climbed far when hooves crunched down the dirt path, slow, deliberate, louder than they needed to be. Clara stepped out from the barn with the baby on her hip. His arms were tight around her neck. He didn't cry, Didn't speak, just pressed his face against her collarbone like he knew what was coming. The sheriff rode into view, boots hanging low, reins slack in his hand. His horse stopped just short of the porch, still facing the road. He didn't dismount. "Well," he said, "looks like a terrible accident." The rancher stepped out next, shirt loose, hair damp from the pump. He stood beside the barrel where the rifle leaned, in full view. "Morning, Sheriff." The sheriff squinted at the ruins. "Shame. There was a good roof on that place." "No use crying," the rancher said. The sheriff's eyes flicked to Clara. She didn't speak, didn't move, just watched his boots, dusted in white ash, toe scuffed, spur loose. "Chimney must have kicked up something," he said. "Happens this time of year. Folks get lazy, leave kindling where it shouldn't be." No one replied. The horse shifted. The sheriff adjusted his hat. "Lucky you were all awake," he added. "Could have been worse." Still nothing. He finally looked down at the baby. The boy looks tired. Clara turned slightly, shielding the child with her body. "Sleep comes hard after fire," she said flatly. The sheriff nodded, ignoring the edge in her voice. "What's his name again?" he asked. She didn't answer. The rancher did. "You never asked before." "I'm asking now." The rancher shrugged. "Don't think that's your business." "I make it my business when a branded boy goes missing and turns up in someone else's arms." Clara stepped forward, just one step. "The brand doesn't speak for him," she said. The sheriff raised an eyebrow. "No? What then?" She looked down at the baby. He was staring up at her, thumb in his mouth, waiting. She looked back at the sheriff. "His name's Eli," she said. The sheriff didn't react, didn't blink, just stared too long. "Eli," he repeated. "Eli," Clara said again, louder. "You say it, or you shut your mouth." The sheriff looked at the rancher, then back at her. He didn't speak, just pulled the reins slightly. The horse turned, back legs kicking a puff of ash. He tipped his hat. "No law against naming ghosts," he said. Then I rode off. No goodbye, no threat. Just the dust trail behind him. Clara stood still until he disappeared behind the rise. Eli whimpered once. She held him tighter. The rancher walked over, picked up the rifle, checked the chamber, then leaned it back against the barrel. "He's not done," she said. "No. He wanted to see if we'd flinch." "You didn't. Neither did you." They looked out at the remains of the house, still hot in places, still standing in none. "He knows now," she added. "Know what?" "That Eli's got more than one name behind him." The rancher nodded. She turned and walked back to the barn. Didn't look back. I didn't need to. Eli had a name now, and someone had heard it. That was enough for today. "Eli," she said for the third time that morning. He sat in the dirt beside the water barrel, hands full of pebbles, testing which ones made sound and which stayed silent. The name didn't startle him anymore. He looked up, grinned wide. She smiled back. "Eli, come here." He stood, wobbled. I walked. She picked him up and kissed his cheek, saying his name again like it was a prayer. Inside, she said it while washing dishes. Outside, while shaking out quilts. Even in the barn, when no one was listening. Eli. It echoed strangely across the land, like the dirt hadn't heard love in a long time. That afternoon, she stepped into the black skeleton of the old house. The smoke was gone, but the air still tasted like a memory. Charcoal crunched beneath her boots. She moved slowly, carefully, the baby on her hip. She stood in the place where the cot had been, the wall where the letters had once burned. The baby reached toward something half buried near a beam. She crouched, brushed it free. The doll. Melted, half face gone. The one he'd found before, the one that shouldn't be here anymore. She looked at it for a long while. Eli didn't reach this time. He stared. Then I looked away. She wrapped the doll in the edge of her apron and carried it to the stump, the same one where she sat the night after the fire, the place where her fear ended and something new began. She dug with her bare hands, fingernails splitting, skin raw, 6 inches deep, maybe more. She placed the doll in the hole, covered it, pressed the dirt flat, then rested her palm on it, like sealing something sacred. "Goodbye," she whispered. Behind her, the sound of hammering. She stood, watched the rancher work. He wasn't fixing the old fence. He was building a new one, smaller, tighter, circling only what they needed, not to keep things out, to mark what was theirs. He looked up, saw her watching, raised the hammer again. Didn't speak. I didn't need to. She carried Eli to the well, Let him dip his fingers in. He laughed. She let him soak his arm, splash his own face. Eli, she said softly, you know your name now, don't you? He looked at her, eyes bright. She sat beside him, pulled him close. You're not a brand, she whispered. You're not a secret. You're not a thing someone forgot to love. He leaned against her chest. She kept rocking him. The sun dropped low. Supper was quiet. The rancher didn't mention the sheriff. Neither did she. But when she went upstairs later, she saw it. A second rifle, under the bed, laid flat, loaded. No words were said. That night, she wrapped Eli in a blanket, carried him to the cot. He fought sleep, babbling, eyes heavy. She sat beside him and began to hum, then speak. Not about where he came from, not about fire, not about loss, but about who he was becoming. She told him of mornings by the well, of feeding hens, of stomping in puddles no one else saw. She gave him a world bigger than his scar, bigger than brands or barns or burned-down houses. He fell asleep to her voice, hands curled in her skirt. She stood. I walked to the door, didn't lock it, didn't wedge the chair against the knob. She left it cracked, just enough, for breath, not for fear. She sat by the window and listened to the wind roll through the field. The fence gleamed silver in the moonlight, new lines drawn, not to trap, to protect. In the corner, Eli stirred, sighed, said her name for the first time, Clara, just once. She didn't cry. She didn't move. She just whispered back, I'm here. And this time, there was no one left to take it from her.